How much vitriol do we have to see of honk honk, which is an acronym for Hail Hitler, do we need to see by these protesters on social media?
So here's the question. How do you get to this point, right? Like how do you get to the point where you have this adult human female saying the most bizarre and crazy things that if you were to say them out loud in a different environment, like let's say a pub, a football game, when you're out in the park, if you were to say this, people would legitimately think that you're crazy, right? Like, I am willing to bet that if you go to a park where kids are playing and she brings her child as well and she sits next to the other mothers, right, and there's like a bench, she sits down there and she says this exact same thing, the other mothers would get up and just, you know, like this is like the most crazy stuff that you can hear. And you know, like the question is like, if she says this a level of crazy about this, like what does she say about other things? It raises questions. And the answer is collectivism. I can explain exactly what is happening with the Canadian thing, because it's like a little bit more than a gaffe, right? For those of you who don't know or haven't watched my previous video, they actually invited not a Nazi, but a super Nazi, like a member of the SS, one of the few that are alive. And they gave him not one, but 2 standing ovations. And the president of Ukraine, Zelensky, was there, and he was fist pumping at it. And it's like, okay, how does that happen, though? Right? The answer is that they discourage independent thought. Like, they discourage critical thinking. They discourage people having their own opinions. So when one person is clapping, everyone has to clap. And you'll notice like this fundamental difference between a country that has freedom and one that doesn't. Like when Stalin was giving a speech, everyone was clapping. When Hitler was giving a speech, everyone was clapping. In the United States, when you have a politician giving a speech, sometimes some people clap, some don't. You may even have a heckler. You may even have like a protester that like screams some obscenities in the back. That is the difference between a country that has and values freedom versus a country that doesn't tolerate and looks down on dissent. So when I see all of the people in the Canadian Parliament clapping and giving a standing ovation, like they're not just, you know, like pretending to, no, they're like clapping as if they're genuinely excited, then what tells me is that they are from collectivism. Now collectivism doesn't mean what the word says, right? It doesn't mean a collective. It means a way of having a culture. It is usually predominantly found in Asian cultures, and also in cultures that have dictatorships. So, like, for example, the Soviet Union, Nazi Germany. It's basically the philosophy of the ant people, right? Like, the decision comes from the top, and everyone has to follow it. You need to maintain harmony within the group. You have no individuality, right? Like, this is one extreme. The other extreme is individualism, where, like, literally everyone is out for themselves. And obviously, there's, like, things in between. But this new way of organizing is not typically for Western countries and rarely can function with liberty in mind. Because what they did is exactly what is done in a collectivist nation. So in Soviet Union or in communist China is exactly what they have done here. You see, in an individual country that is founded on Christian values, people believe in guilt. So when you make a mistake, you should feel guilty and then apologize for the mistake, and you're forgiven as long as you're not doing it again. And I want you to notice how in the woke ideology, the concept of forgiveness and redemption just doesn't exist. Like, if you made a mistake, it's over forever, right? Like, Alex Jones is never going to be allowed back, no matter what he does. The people who are canceled, like, they're never allowed a chance of redemption or a chance of changing their mind. No, it's like one mistake, you're out. There is no remorse, no pity, right? So, how does a collectivist culture deal with? Well, when the group, as we see here, like the parliament, does something bad, they will nominate a scapegoat. So in this case, it was the speaker. So the speaker is now going up, apologizing. He gets fired, and everyone else that participated in it, everyone else that clapped, their guilt is now taken away, right? So the speaker, his name is forever tarnished. He will be remembered as the guy who invited the super Nazi. And everyone else, even if they participated, even if they suggested the guy, doesn't matter. They are forgiven, right? So this is how a collectivist culture operates. No one questions anything. They do what they're told. The moment that someone claps, everyone claps. And when they make a mistake, not everyone gets punished for what they did. Like, for example, a guy who clapped harder gets punished more than a guy who didn't clap. No. They nominate one person, that one gets punished, and everyone else should be forgiven. And in fact, they even want to erase this from ever having happened.
I would like to ask for unanimous consent to adopt the following motion. That notwithstanding any standing order, special order, or usual practice of the House, the recognition made by the Speaker of the House of an individual present in the galleries during the joint address to Parliament by His Excellency Volodymyr Zelensky be struck from the appendix of the House of Commons debates of Thursday, September 21st, 2023, and from any House multimedia recording. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
So basically, they want to erase this from history. And they're using the thing, it's like, well, we can't glorify a Nazi. But you did. You did glorify one. Why should it be removed? Unironically, if the opposition would have done this, would you have removed it? This is very good political ammunition that you give. And again, it's not about the fact that you're glorifying a Nazi. Like that's not the issue. I know that the left would say so, because the left would be like, oh, well, look, Trump took a picture next to this guy, and this guy was seen with this guy, and this other guy was seen with the Nazi, therefore Trump is a Nazi, right? Like, that's how the left does it in the media. But what we are seeing here is the right not saying that, well, you're supporting Nazism. Like, we understand that you didn't know, but the question is, like, why didn't you know? Like, you are the guys that are talking about fact-checking and the science, and you are more informed than the people, and the people know nothing, and you're smart, and you're eloquated. So how is it that the enlightened minds, the lawmakers, where all the truth comes from, made such a blunder? Because we're not talking about, like, 5 people. We're talking about over a couple of dozens, right? And all of them clapped. Like, not a single person decided to Google it. It was so easy to fact-check. Just by looking at their name, it was so easy to know a little bit of history because I did. You're telling me like, okay, this guy fought in the 1st Division in Ukraine during World War II, and I was like, wait, they couldn't have. Oh my God, they did. Like, just Googling his name. Now, also interesting, as I mentioned previously, this is hilarious. Like I was wondering, like, what the guy is thinking, right? Like, what the super Nazi must be thinking. Like, you're called in the Canadian Parliament to receive a standing ovation. Like, you must know the history. You must understand what you did, and you must understand how Canada thinks about what you did. So, like, why did he accept? Like, if I was him, I wouldn't accept, because then you get consequences, and he did. Apparently, Poland is now asking for him to be extradited. So this guy is like, I don't know, 96, 97 years old. And he may spend the rest of his life in a Polish prison. And he has no one to blame but himself. But in a way, I'm glad that it happened, because he exposed the incompetence of the people in the Canadian Parliament, the same people that are supposed to fix the economy, the same people that are supposed to deal with international politics, couldn't spend a couple of seconds to Google someone's name. Or even, like, know a little bit of history. Not a lot, just a little bit. Let me know what you guys think, and don't forget to check the pinned comment in my comment section. Take care.